Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. At long last, we are at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 6-digit World Cup 2025. My name is Gami Criolla, and his name is Wilwam, and we are bringing you the apex, the climax of this year's story, the Philippines versus the United States. Wilwam, how you doing, man?
I am absolutely excited to be here. This is just such a close match on all fronts. You know, we have the United States coming all the way from losers bracket, defeating Indonesia, where some, including myself, doubted them. You know, I did not think they would be able to defeat Indonesia, but they have shown us that they are here to fight and they want that victory as much as anyone else.
That's right. I think the United States coming out of their matchup against Indonesia, nobody expected it to not just be a victory for the US, but a 7-2 victory for them. They didn't just beat Indonesia, they crushed them. Unambiguously one of the most underrated countries in the World Cup series. And well, I feel like it's a trend. Every year they doubt the US. Every year following their 2023 run, people time and time again doubt the US's ability to do it again. And every year from then, they've proven us wrong. This is the United States. There's a reason why they're the most decorated country in OSU history. And their effort, their passion that they put into the game, it's just completely unmatched. But William, I think the Philippines is a country to mention, definitely. Would you like to run us through what we have on the other side of the match?
Absolutely. I mean, United States may be strong. They've gotten so many first, seconds across all rank ranges, but their opponent this time around, the Philippines, is absolutely formidable. I have many times during this tournament called them the atomic bomb of this year's World Cup, and it's just because they at the start looked so dominant over any other country in this tournament. It was only really the loss of Zix, bringing them down to a 7-man roster, showing a little bit of weakness there. And they haven't been the strongest during the bracket stage. They did go 6-4 to Russia and Canada, I believe, and also going 7-5 in their previous match against the United States. But I think this Pool SR is just going to be what gives them that advantage here, honestly.
And that's right. I mean, an advantage they need. The United States are looking scarier than ever, and they're looking very poised to perhaps even run it. Perhaps, dare I say, take it all the way against what, as you mentioned, is considered to be the atomic bomb of this year's World Cup. We're going to jump straight into the protects, and it looks like we're going to see a double gimmick protect coming in from both of these teams. A DT4 protect coming in from the States, and the Philippines actually going for a HD2 protect. I think HD2 for the Philippines makes a lot of sense. You're looking at your carry players in Jun Origami and Raijin Yuna overall being what really rounds out the Philippines. The Philippines is known to be a mechanics country, but they do not have a weakness in gimmick. In fact, they have like a Swiss Army knife. They have a secret weapon, and that is the Hidden 2. Every single matchup, I believe, we always see them really enjoying going into the Hidden 2s. Meanwhile, the States going for the DT4. I believe this is a result of the scoreline that we saw when Indonesia picked DT2 against the States during the last matchup. The United States had a crushing victory over that DT4, and it makes a lot of sense why they would want to go into it. Gonna real quick touch on the bans. The United States will go for the HD1 ban, and the Philippines will be going for the Hard Rock 2 ban. Rather interesting, but we will probably touch on that a little bit later because we need to switch right into Philippines' first pick. It's gonna be Hidden 3, Dear the Night I Love. Will, tell us a bit about this map.
This Hidden 3 pick as an opening pick, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Philippines. You mentioned, right, this is kind of their secret weapon, right? They have a surprisingly strong roster on the Hidden and Gimmick, despite them being probably known for their speed, right? You always see them, players like Idex known for crushing it on these high SR speed maps. But I think against the United States, which is a team that maybe struggles a little bit on these sorts of gimmick pick, right? Even though they had a crazy score on the Hidden 2 and Freemod 2 of their last match, sorry, you know, they tend to get a little bit third or fourth player gapped in terms of this hidden, and to see Philippines pick this super early is pretty expected, honestly. This hidden 3 features a lot of very weird skill sets, honestly. It features, you know, swing and also a lot of slider aim, which combined together is not really a mix you see a lot at this rank range, right? It's a very weird skill set that a lot of players, you know, seem to have picked up quite well, actually. You know, the United States getting a pretty okay 1.6 million score in their last match. But I think against the team of Philippines, you're probably going to need a lot more to make that work.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this pick even more crucial for the Philippines, right? Your first pick's usually the kind of pick that you want to be confident going into. It's going to be something that you really want to win. And for what it's worth, the Philippines has the information over the United States. So going into a map that you know your opponent, you know that you can beat your opponent on, is I think a really, really solid play coming in from Team Philippines. But to talk a bit more about the map itself, Dear the Night I Love, this is a custom map by Nomod, one of 2 customs that we have in the hidden slots. Nomod, a very well respected and well-known 6-digit mapper, has been mapping the scene for God knows how long at this point, and she's particularly known for number 1, making custom song for Core 6 in Core 6 Nomod 2 in 2024, as well as, you know, just overall being a extremely strong alt and tech mapper. And in essence, Dear the Night I Loved, this map coming in from Nomod is a real blend of everything she is known for. So this is sort of like the culmination of all her strengths as a mapper thrown into one map. And from what we saw before, as you mentioned, right, 1.6 mil is the team score to beat for the Philippines, but who knows, the US might have been hiding something as you get into... Oh, it looks like we're gonna see a timeout.
Oh, it does look like we're going to seeing a timeout, maybe?
Professional stalling in my 6-digit tournament, you love to see it.
Oh, actually... No, I think we're going to be seeing the map come out very, very shortly. Good luck, have fun. And yeah, we're going to kickstart this match with the Hidden 3. As you mentioned, very, very brutal on the slider aim and also the rhythm, right? And the main thing to look out for is going to be those accuracies. I think we've seen very, very low accuracies on this map, and just because of how hard it is, it's just very, very tricky to act well. And when you have that you need to be able to combo this well to be able to get a good score on it.
Yep, that's right. As we move, I believe we should be starting to see the map. I'm not too sure why the screen hasn't shifted. This is a OCO original from the Mania World Cup 4K 2024. Unfortunately, it looks like, you know, we're having a bit of a client issue. Hopefully that will get fixed very soon. Oh, they do in fact see it. It's just us who doesn't see it. Well, we're right into the action. Holy crap, this is the first time the casters are seeing this. And it looks like we unfortunately still can't see it, but just going off what we can see on the screen, Camel Smuckle is going to be the only one to find the miss. And there are a bunch of misses to be had. Creep Crafting as well, finding that miss a bit later than Camel Smuckle. Junior Origami as well, all finding the miss. And with that, I mean, it is currently 1 FC to 3 in favor of the United States. Sparkle might find a miss, and now we are the commentators can finally see the gameplay at hand. The break opens up, and as it stands, it looks like the US are gonna pull a hit in this first third of the map.
That is absolutely right. The break opens, and it is the United States going to be taking that slight early score advantage, but there are just no combos across the board except for Kalanjak and Kemo Smucker, really. And, you know, those two are going to have to be the ones to hold in this Hidden 3.
That's right. I mean, Camel Smuckle really the only sort of combo that the Philippines has to toy with, and meanwhile, Kalanjak is bringing the heat alongside Sparkle with a very solid accuracy on this map. You mentioned before, accuracy is going to be so key, and that miss from Creep Crafting is going to ease the Philippines into this next KI, but we're going to get straight into it as Camel Smuckle really needs to hold himself together. The 3 supporting combos on the side of Team Philippines is doing him justice, but Kalanjak, what do you even do against this man?
This Callan Jack has been known to set absolutely crazy scores in match. Remember his tiebreaker performance in semi-finals, and he's doing it again, holding that 700 combo into this last other map. And that 100k score lead is not big at all, but certainly in the favor of the US right now.
Oh, but that miss from Callan Jack, and that is gonna be a real miss as well. Suddenly, in a shocking turn of events, what happened to Callan Jack? As now the Philippines 700 combo off the back of Kemo Smuckle, and the 400 combos on Zabi, Junior Origami, and Idex Mindrika are gonna bring it back. Zabi finds that miss, and now Sparkle and Cuckoo are on the pursuit. But there's now nobody to match up with Kemo Smuckle, seen that miss from Callan Jack, and that scoreline is gonna slowly but surely trickle over as we move into this last quarter of the map. But Kemo Smuckle and Idex both fall. Cuckoo did not fall, that was a bunch, but finally goes down now, and it's a complete combo reset on the side of the Philippines. As meanwhile, Sparkle Creepcrafting finds a miss, Sparkle finds a miss, but that is enough damage done to the scoreline. The United States, like a puppet on the string, will be forcing Philippines to give up this first breakpoint, and they'll be kick-starting this matchup with a 1-point lead, and they're gonna go into the next pick very, very happy. Well, and that's what I said, dude. Do not doubt the stakes when it comes to these picks. Oh, man.
I mean, United States may not reach their previous score of 1.6 mil, but this is still a very impressive team score. And not to mention, it just beats out the Philippines team score, right? I think maybe Philippines underperformed a little bit on this map. It's very hard to be consistent on, and it's very hard to get a consistently good score just because of how long it is. And the United States are going to be taking that first breakpoint, a very crucial breakpoint. You saw in that last match how they took the first breakpoint off Indonesia and then just built up that momentum. They took the first 4 points of the match, which allowed them to just build up that very scary point lead so early onto the match. And I don't know, maybe we will see that here as well.
I mean, the United States are opening this match absolutely firing shots at the Philippines. They're here to prove that they have a game to play, and this first breakpoint is definitely indicative of that. We're gonna instantly see the US pivot into a double time 1 pick, but Woan, would you like to run us through the bans, because we didn't quite have a chance to do so last time?
I mean, yeah, I want to talk about the protects first, honestly, because to me, DT4 is quite a weird protect, right? I would have expected, something like a Hard Rock. United States are quite well known for their Hard Rock, and I think, based on Philippines banning out that Hard Rock too, it's clear that Philippines don't really want to contest the United States on that Hard Rock. So to see them go with a gimmick protect as well as a very RNG map in DT4 strikes me as a little bit concerning, honestly. I'm not too fond of this one. Meanwhile, Philippines, you mentioned, right? Very, very solid protect here, I think. Even though Creepcrafting and Light put up some insane scores last week, I think Philippines just has more players that are able to play this map. Last week, I believe it was Callan Jack and Delete had to fill for this Hidden 2, and the Hidden 2 is so polarizing that I think Philippines just have a very clear advantage on this. Meanwhile, the bans, United States banning out that Hidden 1, pretty expected. I don't think they want to contest the Philippines at all, especially given they are weaker on the Hiddens. They much prefer to play into those Hard Rocks and DTs. And Philippines, no surprise, banning out a Hard Rock, but banning out the Hard Rock 2, which strikes me as quite weird as well, because this is one of those maps that is short, and so anything can really happen. I would have expected maybe a Hard Rock 1 ban, honestly, but it's up to them. Maybe they just don't want to deal with that RNG element at all in that Hard Rock 2.
Yeah, I mean, you're mentioning a few faults here and there, right, when it comes to the bans, and yeah, now that you mention it, the DT4 Protect, I'm a bit apprehensive about it. Not necessarily because I think it's a bad map for the US, but it's because I don't really think that that's something that the Philippines would necessarily go for when it comes to the bans. Given how they protected the Hidden 2, you would assume that the Philippines would naturally be pretty confident on the gimmicks, right? So following that train of logic, the DT4 doesn't really strike me as the best possible ban in that scenario. But we are going to see the States go into a DT1. I mean, we saw them play this to, I believe, take out Indonesia during their last match. I believe their last pick as well during their last match, and the States have just been known time and time again for their high AR and aim mechanics ability. When it comes to the consistency, Delete Delete is practically one of the best players, if not the best player in this tournament. But in contrast to what we saw from from Indonesia last time, the Philippines actually has a high AR roster, and we're looking at it right now. Idex Mandrike is the player I want to mention as the sort of parallel to Delete when it comes to this DT1. But for what it's worth, this DT1 all about that 232 BPM speedy consistency.
Absolutely, yeah. This DT1 just hurls those jumps at you non-stop. There really isn't much room in here to take a break at all. And already we saw Kemo Smoko and Rura both finding very, very early breaks there. It's now just 2 FCs to 4 now. And you just see those jumps. And the United States got a very solid score. All 4 of their players getting above 500k. And they are seem to be replicating that performance in this DT1 right now against the Philippines.
Yep, that's right. We're moving back into the next KI. This map is extremely unrelenting. It might only clock in at a little less than 2 minutes, but for what it's worth, the difficulty density is incredibly tight. It's incredibly intense, and for what it's worth, Idex is going to be the only one left to fend for himself. The United States has him cornered in this juncture as that scoreline continues to grow almost to a 400k score lead. You gotta hope, you gotta pray for a miss for the States to come out, and needs to come out soon because Philippines might have the support, but they don't have the combo. Redacta and Kuku, however, find the miss, but so does Yura and Kemo Smoko. And with that miss from Idex Mandrike, well, it might be already over.
Absolutely right. United States have now built up a 600k score lead just from having those 4 FCs hold into the first half of the map, and they are just putting on an absolute show for us on this DT1. Creep crafting and Delete still holding into this very last section of the map.
You're kidding me.
Is absolutely relentless. As I've said many times, creep crafting may find the break, but it is once again one of the carriers of the United States. Delete
what did I say?
On this DT1, bringing their lead up to 2-0.
That's right, Delete is here to play. Right out of that HD3 breakpoint for the States, Delete instantly strikes in with a DT1 FC. Not just any FC, a 99.88% FC, a 1.1 mil score.
Oh
and
my god.
What do you even do? Legitimately, what do you even do? The Philippines can only just watch as the States just do what they do best, aim abuse. And now the Philippines are at a 2-point deficit. The United States, being the lower seeded team, gonna put a firm foot ahead going into the early game of this match. We're gonna go into both teams' last picks before the second ban phase. And what are we looking at here, William?
I think the Philippines are going to try abuse the tapping. I think, despite United States, they abused the tapping quite heavily in their match against Indonesia, but that's just because Indonesia was so weak on the tapping. They didn't have the 4 players that the United States have on maps like the Nomod 5 and the DT2. I think just given how Philippines has those players like Idex and Xavi who can perform on these sorts of maps, I'm expecting, honestly, a Nomod 5 here. It's just such a skill cap map, and I think Idex and Xavi could easily perform much better than the team score of the United States last time.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out what you were saying, Will, the team score of the United States ranged from 565k all the way down to 167k. Where filling a roster is concerned, I definitely think that the Philippines does reign supreme when it comes to just naturally being able to fill a roster for a speed map. And we need to see a pick here. We need to see a decisive win for the Philippines, and 2, a pick for them to get out of the way before the United States can ban it in the second ban phase. So that just seems like a no-brainer. And you're right on, you hit the nail on the head, Will. It's gonna be the Nomod 5. Everything will freeze. We hype pulling with this, boys.
Oh my goodness, yeah, this Nomod 5, very expected pick to come out of the Philippines. They really do not want to repeat this mistake that Indonesia made, right? Indonesia lost 2 breakpoints before the first ban phase, giving the United States that momentum. And I hope that this Nomod 5 stops the United States right in their tracks, because I do not want to see the United States, build such a momentum that they can even sweep Philippines. I do not want to think about that. But it's going to be the Nomod 5. Everything will speed. Absolutely relentless map. Going to be 240 BPM. Testing your bursts. And this map just hurls them at you non-stop. It is incredibly hard to hold a good combo on this map, right? Those sliders combined with the bursts are just super tricky to hit consistently. I think very expected pick coming out from Philippines. And I think we're looking at players like Idex and Xavi to perform on this, as we've mentioned time and time again.
Yeah, but I mean, never doubt the US. We definitely had the same expectations going to the Hidden 3 that we just saw. And, you know, the United States just completely proved us wrong. In this case, you know, I'm definitely looking at players like Delete and Callanjack who really fill up that tapping roster or the tapping core of the United States. But, you know, as you mentioned, when you're comparing the cores of the Philippines and the United States when it comes to the tapping, Idex is definitely up there. If Idex is probably, you know, on par with Delete, if not even more experienced, even higher when it comes to that tapping threshold, or when it comes to hitting that tapping threshold. And, you know, Will, you were talking a lot about the map, but I wanna just mention one thing that, you know, often gets overlooked by the players. These guys are playing Everything Will Freeze. It's not any other speed map, you know. It's not like, you know, a Katagiri 220 BPS speed. No. This is everything will freeze. And so that sort of mental tenacity that I think is going to be extremely crucial going into this matchup is also going to be put to the test. The Glad Have Funs are coming in chat. We are going to see a return of the United States roster from their Nomod 5 that we saw last matchup. And meanwhile, on the Philippines, we're actually going to see Hushin make their in-match debut on Everything Will Freeze. We're in for a certified hook classic. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Philippines gonna pull up with their core roster here. Xavi, Camo, Idex, plus Yushin on this Nomod 5 here. And you already see what this map is all about. Those 5-note, 7-note bursts hurled at you non-stop. And we already see some early breaks here, actually. Camo, Smucko, Hushin, Idex, Mistral, all finding breaks on this early section. But, you know, these off Kiais are honestly much more stamina draining than the Kiais, in my opinion. And we'll just have to see who can hold enough combo to get a good score on this map.
Yep, that's right. As we left off, Cuckoo finds that miss, so does Misdraw. But Will, and we are seeing a lot of misses coming in from Team Philippines, mainly Fusion, Idex right now. And I don't know about you, Will, and this is looking more and more precarious. We're gonna get into our first KI section. This KI section, as you mentioned before, Will, less tapping intensive, more gonna be about that finger control and speedy aim. We're going into the second half, and Fusion is gonna be the one to find the miss. But meanwhile, the United States, off the back of Callanjack and Delete, will be securing a slight score lead over the Philippines. Xavi really the only one left, and with that miss from Camo Smucko, oh never mind, that was a bunch of miss, with Xavi and Camo Smucko really being the only ones holding back the United States onslaught.
And Camo Smucko finds that break there out of the first Ki. It is just Xavi left to fend for himself against the absolute dominant duo of Callanjack and Delete, still holding those FCs. Idex has found the recovery, but it's being completely cancelled out by Cuckoo right now. And United States have built up that 100k score lead there as we get into this next Ki.
Wait, pause, Will, and Camo Smucko has had a bunch of Bancho misses, so it's a lot closer than we actually think. We're racing into the next KI, and here's where the mis-aims will come to catch these players off guard. Idex Midrike now finally finding his footing in the matchup, able to match up against Cuckoo. And for what it's worth, that scoreline is going to continue to stagnate as we move into the second third of the map. It's gonna be up to how hard these players can hold Fusion and Misdraw find a miss. Camo Smucko also goes down. Is that real? It looks like it's real. And with that, the United States, off the back of Cuckoo, Callanjack, and Delete, will be looking to run the extra mile.
This is an incredible performance from Callanjack and Delete right here. They did not hold through this section here in their previous match, but they are putting on an absolute show for us. Xavi may still have the FC on the side of Philippines, but it's only Idex to back him up, and United States have a 200 score lead right now that they have to claw back. They're really going to need to see a break very soon from the side of Callanjack and Delete if they want to take this back at all.
That's right, we are going into the final K of the match. This map bursts its final glacier. Misdraw finds a miss. The Philippines do not have any room for error at this juncture. The blazing duet of Callanjack and Delete are just continuing the onslaught against the Philippines relentlessly. Xavi might hold, but it doesn't matter. What do you have? You have Callanjack and Delete unrelenting towards the very end. Idex might have that recovery, but at the end of the day, what do you even do against a double FC from the United States on Everything Will Freeze? Oh no, Wowab. Oh no.
God.
Oh no. Oh no.
Triple FC on this map is absolutely crazy. Kalanjak and Delete bumping their scores up from last time up to FCs on this map is absolutely astonishing to me. And United States are going to be taking a break point off Philippines once again. It is just like that previous match against Indonesia. They have 2 breakpoint advantages now, and they have their own pick to respond with to potentially bring this up to 4-0 going into the next ban phase.
Move on. Before we move into that, can I just say, the US almost doubled their score from last match. They almost doubled their score from last match, and that just goes to show you can never be too sure with this country. If you underestimate them, if you doubt them, if you so much so give them any opportunity, they're gonna they're gonna steal that opportunity, they're gonna steal that baton right out of your hands, and they're gonna run a mile with it. What a performance from the US, but you know, we are going back to the US's pick, and right now they have true breakpoints over Philippines. This is the momentum that we were talking about. What will the United States go for here, Will? What are you looking at? I'm looking at a Hard Rock, perhaps. I'm looking at a Hard Rock 1 even.
I am right with you there. I'm honestly looking at maybe, Hard Rock 1 or Hard Rock 3. I was initially thinking about that Hard Rock 3 just because they won on that Nomod 5, right? But I think United States, the Hard Rock roster doesn't overlap as heavily with their tapping roster, and this Hard Rock 3 is all about that tapping, right? It's just streams hurled at you for the entire duration of the map. So I think you might be right there. We might be seeing this Hard Rock 1, but they could definitely shock us here. They could touch parts of this pool that I think both teams don't really want to touch at all, namely the control, honestly. But it does look like you are right. We are going to be seeing that Hard Rock 1 pick.
Yep, this is another example of CDC hype pooling. We're gonna see Cruella X Discord, Beggars, the consoles remix. This is your token like tech slot in the pool. This map, overall, Will, I think you and I can both agree that, consistency-wise, this map tends to lean on the easier side, but there are some really tricky, flow-in patterns right before each KI that I definitely can see multiple players getting tripped up on. And, to pull back a bit, I definitely understand where this pick is coming from. The States won that DT1, so they want to stay in that aim ballpark and go into another high AR aim map in this Hard Rock 1. But at the same time, I can definitely also see Philippines, Philippines is no stranger when it comes to their Hard Rocks. In fact, I would argue that they're pretty damn strong off the back of players like Idex, like the players like Zabi, who are known for their Hard Rock capability. I just worry for the fact that because this is such a consistency favored pick, that the Philippines will just completely be outcast by the States, because the States, Kalanjak and Delete, have just been going ham one after another. That DT1 going into this Hard Rock 1, they have the consistency in their hands, and that's what I really think the United States is trying to capitalize on with this Hard Rock 1.
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned that consistency, and the Philippines have not been the most consistent when it comes to honestly anything in this tournament, right? You saw them lose that DT1, which was a quite consistently map, right? And then this Hard Rock 1, as you mentioned, is also consistency heavy. It does have those tapping sections that can trip you up, and it does have that light tech element, which wasn't seen in last week's, but I don't know. I think it could be definitely go either way here.
Yeah, I think this is our first RNG pick in this matchup. We saw sort of kind of a hint of that in the DT1, but on the DT1, that really is just Delete's time to shine. That is his element. When you go into a Hard Rock 1 where it's a bit more techy, a bit less of that raw mechanics and raw speed, that's where the Philippines you can sort of make an argument for the Philippines to be rather contestable, or for the United States to be rather contestable by the Philippines. But we're gonna, with the good luck, have fun in chat, we're gonna jump straight into Beggars, the consoles remix, a certified banger, one after another, Wilbam. Oh my goodness, I love CDC hype pooling.
Interesting to see the United States roster here. They're going to be putting in Creep Crafting and Sparkle. These two mostly known for their gimmick, right? But they're going to be in for this Hard Rock 1 pick. I know Sparkle has definitely built up that Hard Rock consistency this year, so not too shocked about that. But Creep Crafting in for this is quite strange, right? I usually expect someone like Cuckoo to film this, and a load of players being caught up by that opening flow-in pattern there. That one is pretty brutal, but it's gonna be 3 FCs to 2 right now into this opening section.
Yep, it's still early days. We're still on the early onset of the map. A lot to be desired moving forward. And as I mentioned before, you know, the real grid of the map is gonna come in those diff spikes. The map is gonna slowly start to heat up. The bursts are slowly starting to trickle in, and we're gonna jump straight into that first KI. Everybody holding still, and you can see that the comfort is just all across the board. Very, very well rounded. Nobody seems to be tripped up whatsoever, and it's just gonna be a test of that consistency through and through. A bit of shakes coming in from Sparkle, but for what it's worth, the United States will be pulling a hit with a slight accuracy lead, giving them that 40k score lead.
But it's gonna be about who hits this flow section here, and
Oh!
Inex is the only one to find the break. That is devastating for Philippines. They still have 3 combos with the break from Takeoff, but Yura trades it right back, and that is just advantage to United States now. Is Philippines only have Xavi and Kemo right now to hold against Kalanjak, Sparkle, and Delete. I mean, this is just absolutely devastating for Philippines, but there is still plenty of map left to go.
Yeah, I mean, it is 3 FCs to 2. There is still a chance, you know. The Philippines are just waiting for the US to trip, but the only question is whether they're gonna be giving them the opportunity to trip. And if they all hold past this KI, they have a lot of free combo. They have a lot of time to regain their nerves, and this is where the Philippines really need to pull themselves together, regain their bearings, and move into this last quarter with confidence. And the flow in comes in. Nobody gets tripped by it whatsoever. Xavi, Camo, Sparkle still holding strong, but Inex is not gonna be able to find any sort of recovery. Sparkle, however, does find a miss, an eye for an eye. Kalanjak and Delete now. It's a 2v2. Never mind a 1v2 and a 0v2. And the last beacons of hope for the Philippines on this Hard Rock 1 fall. Delete and Kalanjak, the unstoppable duo. They can't keep doing this.
And that is going to be United States off the back of Delete and Kalanjak, plus the recovery combo from Creepcrafting, taking in almost 500k score lead. Not even at the very end of the map. Creepcrafting may find the break, Delete may find the break, but they have done more than enough. And with Kalanjak still holding that uncontested FC into this last section of the map, this is going to be a done deal for the United States, and they are going to be taking this match 4-0 into the next ban phase.
Are we being serious? Wait, Will, slap me twice real quick. Are we being serious? We are seeing what was often considered the undisputed best team in the tournament getting 4-0'd at this juncture by the United States. I mean, Kalanjak is just now looking to take it all the way. He's delivered his knockout strike, and he's looking to go for the pummel. Kalanjak, 1.1k combo and counting. Will he be able to secure this FC right before the second ban phase as the map slowly ramps down? I think he will do just that. And the United States in the first half of this matchup are looking so incredibly terrifying.
Oh my goodness gracious. Like, all of these victories, apart from that Hidden 3 opening, have just been such dominant victories for United States. And they are going to be taking this 4-0 into the second ban phase. I mean, this is the momentum we were talking about at the very start of the map. And this is just a complete repeat of what happened in the Indonesia match. I am genuinely terrified for the Philippines right now. I cannot believe this is happening. I was doubting the United States going into a team like Philippines, but they have just proven me wrong. They just keep setting these incredible team scores, and we're going to be getting into the second ban phase now.
Okay, this is less so a ban phase and more so some time for the Philippines to take a step back. They need to reconsider their game plan from this point onwards, right? The United States has a 4-point advantage. The Philippines cannot poke any holes in them right now. And when the United States are basically on a heavy train of momentum that is not looking to slow down whatsoever, the Philippines need to really throw everything they can. They need to really calm down, take a step back, sit down, get that water buff, and recuperate, recalculate going into this next ban phase. The Philippines is going to open with a Hard Rock 3 ban, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, you already lost on the Nomod 5, you lost on the Hard Rock 1. You know, the Hard Rock 3 is stamina and Hard Rock. You take both of those out and you just get a recipe for disaster. So Philippines obviously don't want to touch that Hard Rock 3 whatsoever. Gonna ban out the Hard Rocks, and now the Hard Rock pool is completely off limits for these players, and we'll hopefully be seeing more diversified picks going into the second half of this match.
I mean, Philippines just do not want to let Delete and Kalanjak, that duo that has been setting incredible scores during this match, right? They had the Nomod 5 and the Hard Rock 1 just there. They just don't want to let them roam free on a pool like this. Meanwhile, United States coming out with their ban. You know, I'm not sure what we're going to see here, honestly. They could really go anywhere based on what we've been seeing in this match. I think what I'm thinking is probably something like the Nomod 6. They don't want to let Philippines take that gimmick advantage, right? They banned this first against the Indonesian roster in their previous match, and I think given the RNG nature of it, I think they just don't want to contest on a map like that.
I find this sort of oh wait, pause chat. Yeah, no, I find this sort of interesting. You know, if they go for the Nomod 6 ban, I think it is more than enough proof that the states probably aren't the most confident on Nomod 6. So perhaps if they go for a Nomod 6 ban, I'm thinking that going into the bracket reset, because the Philippines do have the safety net of that bracket reset, it might, you know, be cause for Philippines to immediately go for the Nomod 6 to attack their weakness. And that's why I think the United States going into a different ban from what we expected. In fact, going for the Nomod 3 is honestly a pretty rational idea. I think the control, as you mentioned before, has been a relatively untouched territory by both of these countries, and the United States just kind of seem to want to avoid as much as possible picking into the Nomod 3, especially given the fact that, you know, the Nomod 3 is a kind of map that can really thrive off carries, and carries Philippines definitely has when it comes to the control. I'm mainly looking at Xavi, not so much Irex, and, you know, Xavi and I guess Yura would be a pretty good candidate, but more so I guess Camo Smuckle for the Philippines. But yeah, currently, you know, this is the board state that we're at right now, and with that, we're gonna move into the Philippines' next pick.
I mean, Philippines now just have to get that momentum going. United States have the 4-point advantage, 2 break points. They really need to pick very, very safely here. I really don't know what Philippines goes for, honestly. I think a lot of the pool has been blocked out just because of that tapping, right? I don't think they'd want to go into the DT pool, honestly. I think they may want to try go into the control, given that United States did ban out that Nomad 3, and they did you know, look, a lot weaker on that hidden 3, right? It was not as decisive of a victory as those other mechanics maps. So I think we're going to be seeing maybe a control pick here, but maybe Philippines are recovered. Maybe they feel good on this DT. Maybe they'll just send a DT2 or DT3 right now.
No, I think what's the most important with a control pick coming out from the Philippines is not so much so that, you know, the Philippines are necessarily favored on a control pick. I think that what the Philippines need to do is they need to do something different. And I think they cannot go into something that has already been played. They cannot go into aim. They cannot go into tapping. So what's left? It's either your gimmick, which is your protect, not the smartest move, or, you know, you also have your Nomod 4. You also have your Nomod 2. You could go into that control, and I think that's definitely the play that I would go for if I were in that scenario. But it looks like we're gonna see a timeout coming in from Team Philippines, and I think, yeah, no, I understand this. You know, I usually hate timeouts. This is a valid one.
I mean, yeah, Philippines just need all the time they can get to try and recuperate themselves, try and calm themselves down, because a lot of these maps, the nerves can easily get to you, and we'll just have to wait for their next pick, honestly. I think I do expect probably the Nomod 6 to come out here, honestly. I don't think, given how Kalanjak and Delete thrive on these sorts of DT picks, I don't think Philippines wants to go into those just yet. As you mentioned, you know, they have to do something different, and I think Nomod 6 is arguably a better pick than the Freemod 2. I think Freemod 2, you know, the United States had a very, very solid team score. Very unexpected, honestly, on my end. I did not expect them to put up such a crazy team score. I believe it was about 2-point-something million. 2 million exactly, actually. So I think Nomod 6, given that they banned it last time, is just a bit of a better pick for them.
Yeah, and I think I really like your logic. The main, when I was sort of reasoning it through, you know, I kind of sidetracked that Nomod 6. I was thinking Hidden 2, DT4 are already protected. You don't want to go for your protect, so, you know, you would naturally just go to your control. But now that you mention it, yeah, the Nomod 6 seems like a no-brainer in this scenario. And one thing I like to mention is that as strong as the United States are on the mechanics, you know, as they have their insanely strong carry players in Lily and Kalenjak, the Philippines has an equally strong beating roster, and you're looking at the duo of Jun Yorigami and Raijin Yuna, but they're gonna subvert all of our expectations and in fact go for the other gimmick slot in the pool, and it looks like we're gonna go into Freemod 2, Filipino Buff, our custom song by Domi from Yobimo Entertainment.
This, you know, we brought up this pick a few times during our our discussion, right? It is still a gimmick map, and that does favor the Philippines in that sense. But you know, I think USA could clearly subvert expectations on this map. They put a very solid 2 million score on this map, all players performing very well, and you know, they clearly have been practicing very hard for this match based on how much their scores have improved from their previous match. You look at just how much that Nomod 5 improved, so you know, I'm quite scared for the Philippines on a pick like this, but you know, maybe they don't want to contest the RNG nature of Nomod 6, you know, maybe the nerves get to them. That map really requires you to be able to hold through the early sections and just hold until the diff spike. So maybe they don't want to deal with that at all, and they just want to close it with the Freemod 2 pick right now.
I'm particularly apprehensive about this kind of pick because I'm looking at the Hard Rocks, right? The Hard Rock is arguably the more challenging part, at least when it comes to a raw aim or raw mechanical skill standpoint. And if you look at the United States during their last match, you saw Delete have a almost 700k score on this map. And who is the player that we're expecting to see Hard Rock on this Freemod 2? It's gonna be IDX, right? If IDX is in the lobby, it's gonna be IDX playing the Hard Rocks. Since he doesn't seem to be in the lobby here, I'm more inclined to think that it's perhaps Kemo Smako or Zavi. But what the point I'm trying to get at here is the consistency. Delete has the consistency on the Hard Rock, and in a Hard Rock versus Hard Rock matchup, I can totally see the United States just running away with it. And, you know, you're looking, as you mentioned before, right, William, at a very solid United States roster going into this Freemod 2, which we've already seen in their previous matchup. They got a 2 mil score. What's to say that they, you know, you just won't see an FC from Sparkle, or you won't see a crazy 800k from Creekcrafty, or you won't see Kalenjacking all over the place and, you know, getting an 800k on the Nomod, because I definitely think that the performance from Kalenjack as the Nomod anchor in the last map was a fluke. But yeah, for what it's worth, this is a pretty dangerous pick. But Philippines, they need to take gambles here. They cannot afford to play safe. We're gonna load into disc notes. This is a custom song by Domi. Once again, the Filipino captain of 6APC. So some buff, some Filipino hometown buff on this map. But we'll have to see how well that plays out for them.
I'm honestly most worried about the nerves, right? There's a lot of reading in this map, and those patterns require very intense focus, right? They can trip you up at any juncture if you're not prepared. But it looks like getting into this Freemod 2, it is actually United States to take the barely score lead just off the breaks of Sparkle and Creepcrafting, but Raijin and Kemo both finding breaks. On the side of Philippines, it is Zavi and June to hold for Philippines against Delete and Kalenjak. Who else for the side of United States?
That's right, the dynamic duo of Delete and Kalenjak strikes again, but this time the Philippines has a response. Zavi and Junior Origami, the hidden Hard Rock, and the Nomod anchor for the Philippines, doing them justice, going out of that first KI and into a slower section. Here's where the nerves start to build up. Here is where Philippines need to really push for that extra mile in order to get that point against the United States.
I want to mention that Delete and Kalenjak have significantly better accuracies on those FCs compared to June and Zavi both, and that is just what's giving them that score lead right now. It is still ever so thin, only hovering at 50k right now, but with that break from Kemo on that slow section there, tripping him up, that is not good for the side of Philippines. It's gonna start going towards the side of United States, I do believe, but there's still plenty of map here for either of these FCs to break, and Kalenjak is the one to find the break going to the next section here.
Yeah, that's right, and delete as well. All combos on the side of the United States have fallen. Creep crafting left defend against Zavi, Junior Origami, and Raiden Yuna. We're going to the last KI. Here's where the sliders start to kick in. Junior Origami finds the miss, and creep crafting goes down. There is no defense left for the Philippines as Zavi races ahead. Raiden Yuna might fall, but who else? At the end of the day, you cannot beat the hidden hard rock on Zavi, and he's looking to take it all the way. What are we doing, Zavi? And here's where the carry performances really shine bright for the Philippines. The Philippines has a guillotine planted on the United States backs, and that guillotine's name is Zavi. What a performance at Hidden Hard Rock FC.
That is an astonishing score from Zavi there. And Philippines are going to take that Freemod 2 by over 400k. The first time they have been in control of this map, but there's still a very long way to go for them. They still have to claw back 2 breakpoints of the United States. Now, they do have that bracket reset security, but, you know, it's very scary given how dominant United States has been previously in this match.
Yep. But this is what they need, right, William? They need this sort of pop-off performance to really regain that morale. They so desperately need that morale now. And I think with this incredible score, in the masterclass of masterclass scores from Zavi, I think this is what the Philippines need to, you know, put their head back in the game. But it's all going to be up to the United States to, you know, give them the opportunity for the comeback, which I definitely do not think that the States are willing to give up that easily. What do you think they'll go for? I definitely think a speed pick. And no, yeah, as I say that, if I'm gonna go back into the tapping, not letting the Philippines have any fun whatsoever. You know, the Philippines try to do something new. The United States like, no, we're gonna ground you. We're gonna tie you to the ground. We're gonna anchor you down, and we're gonna get into this DT3.
And United States picking this DT3, honestly, a little bit surprising given how dominant Philippines is on the tapping, but United States have just been absolutely performing in this match. And I think what they want to do is just let that duo of Delete and Kalajak run free on this DT3. And, you know, the other thing I think to mention here is this map is quite accessible, all things considered. It takes a while to get into, but I think this is going to be one of the more high-scoring maps, and we've seen the Philippines aren't super great on that consistency. They rely on those sorts of carry performances, like that in that Freemod 2, which was only one off the back of Zavi. So I do think United States may have an advantage here, but, you know, they only got 2.2 million score in their previous match. I think Philippines could easily beat that if they are focused enough.
Yeah, well, I like to relook at their scores from the DT2 of last week, and you know, you mentioned they got 2.2 mil scores, but if you investigate the scores a bit closer, you notice that, you know, Delete wasn't present at all for this DT3 last week, and Kalajak was the lowest score in the lobby, getting a 178k. So, as much as I want to believe that this is a Delete Kalajak carry sort of map, perhaps this is, you know, passing the torch, passing the baton to the other members of the USA. And in essence, the US is also doing something kind of different as well. They're giving their carries, I suppose they're looking to give their carries some sort of a break, as we see, in fact, Misdraw coming in to substitute Kalajak alongside, I believe, Cuckoo to substitute Sparkle. Oh, not Sparkle, pardon me. Cuckoo was in for this map last time, so it's just gonna be Kalajak being subbed out for Misdraw. And Misdraw being the tapping specialist for the US, this definitely makes a lot of sense. It makes too much sense, in fact, Woam. So much so that I can't help but feel as though the US were hiding their skills on this last week. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Maybe. I mean, you know, I think they knew that they could beat Indonesia very convincingly, given how weak Indonesia is on that finger control. It was just as Aurelia to FC, meanwhile, just very poor supporting scores from the rest of the team. So you may be right. They may have been hiding Misdraw on this DT3 pick, but you know, we're going to be getting into this DT3 night right now. Those 4-note, 3-note, 5-note bursts, all going to try and trip you up in this absolutely brutal map.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gore shit map, the first and the last gore shit map in the pool, as Philoxen likes to say, and it's all gonna be about this dim maniacal finger control at clocking at a little less than that 200 BPM threshold. Camo Smuckle gonna be the first one to miss for the Team Philippines, but it's still smooth sailing, albeit with a strong accuracy lead in favor of the United States.
And everyone seems to have found their footing on this map. The start is honestly the hardest part because it takes a while to get used to it, but everyone else seems to be holding strong. It's just Camo to find another break, actually, but it's Mistral to trade it right back on the side of United States. That's 3 FCs to 3 right now, and I think Philippines are just barely taking a sort of score advantage, taking that score lead back ever so slowly.
Yeah, but with that miss from Kuku as well, it's gonna go back. But Yura finds a miss, but so does Sparkle, and Crafting is left to fend against Xavi and Irex Vindrike. This is the dual carry performance of the Philippines that we have been waiting to see, but we are still so early on in the map. There is still 2/3 of it left, but Crafting finding the miss. No combos on the side of the United States as the scoreboard opens. Oh, the Philippines are feeling so good.
And it's been turned right on its head right now. Xavi and Irex, the 2 carries for Philippines, holding that full combo as we go into the last third of the map. They have the control, they have even the score lead, and they're just going to start bringing that score lead all the way back to Philippines' side. Into this last section of the map, they're still looking so dominant on this GT3, and there is just nothing on the side of the United States to contest this at all.
That's right, with that miss from Kuku, it seems as though the States cannot emulate the performance that we saw from them last week. The Yura might find a miss, but that's not who you need to go. You need Xavi and Irex to go down. And as strong as Delete and Kalenjak are, Xavi and Irex respond. They want a piece of that cake. They also want that sort of time in the spotlight. And with that, I mean, Camus Marco with the recovery as well. Irex might go down, but it's already too late for any sort of counter attack to be mounted. 600 combo and counting in the favor of Team Philippines, and Wilhelm, dare I say it, I think we're back in the game.
I think we may be, I think this is a bit of an underperformance from the United States, given how they got a much better score on this in their previous match. Maybe getting a little bit too overconfident here. I'm not too sure if it was not putting Kalenjak in, but score is generally a lot worse across the board, unfortunately, and that's just going to let Philippines run away with this absolutely dominant 1.1 million score lead on the GT3. 1 breakpoint secured now, and they just have 1 more to take back.
Yeah, we saw the US do the reverse of what we've seen them do on the DT1 or the Hard Rock 1. The US were not able to improve. They were not able to match, and they were not able to emulate what we saw from them last week. And the United States have their momentum stopped at some point. And I think now the Philippines with 2 points in a row are finally starting to gain their footing during this matchup. We're going to go into the Philippines' next pick. And what would we go for? What would we go for? Maybe a DD2 if we're really feeling frisky, but I think a Nomod 6 is warranted here. I think they either pick this now or the United States just bans it in the next ban phase.
I don't really think we'll see a DT2 because that is where Kalenjak and Delete roam free, right? They really only won that DT3 because these other players just aren't as consistent as those two, and I think picking that DT2 just opens that Pandora's box for the Philippines. So I think we're going to be seeing something else like the Nomod 6 we brought up previously, or maybe something else entirely. I'm looking at maybe like a Nomod 2 even, just because of the tapping and control element required in it.
That's right. I mean, yeah, I think all of your points are very, very valid. I think the Philippines, once again, they want to sort of stick in the ballpark where the United States won't naturally thread. And the Philippines and the States are pretty evenly matched when it comes to the mechanics. So that probably explains why there have been so many back and forth, or now there have been so many back and forths throughout this entire matchup, pardon me. And so for that reason, I definitely think a Nomod 6 here is warranted. But the Philippines are taking a bit of time to sort of, decide on what to go for. And that's sort of akin to what we are expecting to see from going into the mid-game of this match, right? This is where your individual performances become more pronounced, where your picks are starting to thin. You don't have, guaranteed confident picks apart from your protect, but you don't want to go into your protect at this juncture of the map. And yep, that's right, Wilhelm, we were right. Nomod 6. We are going to see Nomod 6 Take coming in from the Philippines. It's now or never, if anything.
Oh my goodness, yeah. The Nomod 6 coming out for the Philippines, they want to play into the gimmick again. They won that Freemod 2 pretty convincingly, all things considered, and they're going straight back into the gimmick with this Nomod 6. This Nomod 6, though, is quite different compared to the Freemod 2. I think it is a lot less consistent. This map really testing your ability to speed up and slow down. The accel decel in this map is absolutely brutal and not really a skill set that's tested at this rank range, right? You're usually used to seeing, that sort of IAL or like Ebb Tide, for example, sort of map, which is more about finger control than anything. But this map really tests your ability to just follow the music to a metronome and be able to hit these patterns consistently with good accuracy as well. So, I think very tricky map, and I'm honestly not too sure who to expect here, honestly, on this Nomod 6.
I love the way that you describe this Nomod 6 World Web. I think compared to what we typically see in the rhythm gimmick slot, this map is a lot less intuitive. You don't listen to the song and go, oh yes, there's a rhythm change here. The song tells you that there's a rhythm change here. You don't feel it. The song like instantly directs you. And you mentioned speeding up and slowing down is a core part of this matchup. But I would also like to mention that it's not just the BPM, it's not just the rhythm that's being sped up, but the aim as well. There are a whole bunch of absurdly widely spaced patterns that are just littered throughout the map, just waiting to trip these players up. There are a lot of landmines, if I had to describe them, and definitely going to be a bit of an interesting map to see. But given how the United States went for this Nomod 6 ban during their matchup against Indonesia, I still do think that the Philippines will naturally just have a strength or have an overall favor going into this Nomod 6. We are going to see the gimmick duo of the Philippines coming in, Raijin Yuna and Jun Yorigami subbing in. And Idex and Camus Mako, the two carries of Philippines, are just going to remain in. Meanwhile, on the side of the States, you have Sparkle and Creep Crafting forming your gimmick / hidden core for the States, alongside Delete, and Callan Jack. So really, Wilhelm, where skill sets are concerned, we have a pretty even match on our hands.
Absolutely, yeah. I think this map is honestly going to come down to who can control themselves, right? This map only really ramps up in the KIs, but there are plenty of, as you put it, landmines, which I think is an awesome way to describe it. Just landmines scattered throughout this map that can easily cause you to drop your combo. And with the accuracies, I think being quite low on this map, combo is going to matter a lot more, right? It is quite easy to combo through this map, all things considered. It's just whether you find those misses in the early sections of the map that's going to determine your score, really.
Yep, this is a custom map that we reused from SDK9 Grand Finals by Gordon. And instantly we see a complete that's a real combo reset coming in from the United States and Wilhelm. I think we're getting a appetizer of why the States did not want to pick this against Team Indonesia. Raijin Yuna and Camus Mako might fall, but already from a comfort standpoint, Philippines just seem to have that much more comfort.
Absolutely, yeah. You see the accuracies on the side of Philippines a lot better than the side of the United States. It's just Delete and Kalanjak kind of having to fill, but Kemo and Idex both finding the break there. Meanwhile, everyone on the side of the US seems to have found that nice recovery, and another break from Raijin, actually. That is not good for the Philippines at all as we get into this next section here.
Yeah, perhaps all four of the members of the United States were just finding the tactical misses, but we're going to the overlap sections of the map. The first, this fight comes in and no one gets tripped by it, but Delete does fall, and now Callan Jack falls as well. That is two combos, two recoveries on the side of the United States to go up against the FC coming in from Jun Yorigami. And who else do you expect to come in clutch when you need a gimmick map to be played?
Oh my goodness, this gimmick duo of Sparkle and Creep Crafting are doing their best, but that score lead has flipped just based on that FC from Junior Agawi and the very solid recovery combos of everyone else on the Philippines team. And we're getting into another tricky second, and Creep Crafting is the one to find the break.
Yep, here comes another speed up. The bus sliders are coming to catch these players, and everybody goes down. Jun Yorigami, that was a Bancho miss, and with that, it's Jun versus Sparkle. Two gimmick carries, Idex Mindrike right behind Jun, giving them that extra bump to push that scoreline more and more in favor of the left side. But Camus Mako and Raijin Yuna aren't looking too hot. We move into the speed up section, and here's where miracles can be made. If Jun Yorigami finds a miss, if Idex finds a miss, that might just be enough for Sparkle, but the same goes for him. Sparkle cannot afford any room of error. Jun Yorigami goes down, and Idex is the only one left to toy, but Sparkle holds till the very end, but it will not be enough. Idex Mindrike denies Sparkle. He says no, and the Philippines will be putting another point on the board to their name.
Oh my goodness gracious, that was looking
I hate
very
Take.
dire for the side of Philippines. June finding that crucial break there, but unfortunately Sparkle just able to combo through that. And that is going to be Philippines taking another one of their own points, bringing this up to 3-4. Now it's not looking as dire for the Philippines. We have a match on our hands.
Okay, wait, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They still need to win another breakpoint against the States. You know, they're not out of the clear just yet, but we're seeing the counter momentum being amassed by the Philippines right here. And oh boy, I am sitting on the edge of our seats. But let's go back into the analyst booth. Let's once again look at the chessboard. And what will the Philippines go for here? I don't think they go for... And there are no more gimmick maps for them to go into, right? And I think moving forward, they're going to have to go into a control. But on the flip side, the United States, what will they go into? They just lost on the DT3. And, I mean, that makes me feel as though DT2 might be a bit risky. Because, you know, perhaps they're not feeling too strong on the tapping, but we instead see United States pivoting away from the tapping and into the aim. We're gonna sing Wings of Threshold by Arx. Tell us, what are your thoughts on this pick, Will? I'm kind of curious.
This Nomod one, United States going into the aim. I mean, they were looking very solid on, you know, the DT1, the Hard Rock one, so it's not too shocking to once again see them go into the aim. But this map is a whole different beast, I think, compared to what we've seen, right? This map sits at just over 4 minutes long, and it is an absolute marathon, a real endurance test for your 200 BPM aim, right? It throws non-stop aim patterns at you relentlessly, and I think it's just going to be about the consistency and endurance that these players have that's going to either make or break them on this map.
That's right, and this Nomod 1 will, how do I describe it? It's like Nomod 1, but not really. Like, it's Nomod 1 clickbait. There are a whole lot of weird things, weird happenings in this Nomod 1. I think a very good way to describe this map is it's a Nomod 1 that tests your aim above all else, but it also tests your mental tenacity to the max. Why do I say this? Because this map has a lot of slowdown sections. You're kind of listening to one of them right now with the song preview right here, where the map just tends to slow down, and I can't help but feel that this start-stop of the momentum of the map is really disorienting if you're a player in this scenario, especially when you're under nerves. I don't think the nerves are at an all-time high just yet, because we are still kind of getting into that comfortable mid-game of the match, but that might be a point of contention to think about going into this Nomod 1. Let's talk a bit about the map, however. This Wings of Threshold is a custom song by the lovely Arx. Arx came up to me and was like, hey, can I make a custom song by Kasane Teto? And I'm like, Vocaloid custom song, be my guest. And he decided to be both the song artist and the mapper for this lovely map, so huge shoutouts to Arx for you. Song stats wise, I mean, this is relatively standard, AR 9.5. 200 BPM, a bit on the high side for the Nomod 1, but not anything to really catch these players off guard when it comes to the speediness or when it comes to the tapping side of things. Really, it's just all gonna be about the aim and gonna be about the ways that this map throws your momentum, they throw your emotions around. Let's jump straight into Wings of Threshold.
And we see Junior Origami, interestingly, for the Philippines roster. You know, this is honestly a bit surprising to me. You don't usually see Junior Origami in for things other than the gimmick, right? So definitely a strange choice to see him being put over someone like, you know, Chemo, for example. And you're going to close out the Philippines roster with the two carries, Xavi and Idex. Meanwhile, on the side of the United States, you have that delete Kalenjak combo that we've just been seeing absolutely dominate this match. Meanwhile, it's going to be Cuckoo and Creep Crafting to fill. Not super surprising here, given it's a consistency in map, but let's just get right into this Nomod 1, shall we?
Yep, it's still early days, a lot more to be desired, and we're already getting, you know, the players are slowly starting to warm up to the map. Really, it's just going, a lot of this map is just going to be the standard Nomod 1 aim jumps alongside some 200 BPM 5-no bursts here and there. Cuckoo gonna be the first one to fall. That's gonna give Philippines some room to play around with as they both have both the accuracy and the combo lead.
But this map is so long. It really does not matter about these early breaks, honestly. It's just about who can hold through these long sections of the map and build up that score because of their combo. And we're getting into one third section now. Nobody seemed to be caught off guard. Everyone's still holding Cuckoo, manages to find that recovery as we get into the first very brutal section. You're finding the brick.
That's what I said. Yep, you're going down to the mist, and that's what I'm talking about. The way that this map fucks with your momentum so hard is just something that people don't often mention. We're going to the more triple intensive section. Nobody finds a miss, but with that, the Philippines are still going to slowly but surely grab that score lead, especially with Creek Crafting finding that additional miss to give Philippines the extra leg room. And now we're going into another slower, more calm section as Junior Origami, Zabi, and Idex are pressing against the American duo.
Philippines have that combo advantage right now, still holding 3 FCs against just 2 from who else? Kalanjak and Delete, followed by a recovery coming from Kugo, but that goes down, and now Philippines have a very comfortable combo lead now going into this next half of the map. It's just a matter of how far they take, but Idex finds that break.
Oh. That's right, it is still, I mean, the US are still nowhere near out of the clear. There is a 100k score gap separating these two players. And I mean, the Philippines are not looking to give up anytime soon. But never mind, Junior Origami finds a miss during this instrumental interlude. Yura continues to find misses as well. Kuku and Creek Crafting might be struggling, but Kalanjak and Delete are now on the hunt for that score lead.
And it is just Zavi once again to fend off this duo of Kalanjak and Delete, all still holding the FCs. It is now 2 FCs, just 1 on Zavi, and they are going to ever so slowly take that score lead right back. There is still more than enough map for the United States to take this back easily, but it's gonna be which of these FCs holds even longer.
Oh my goodness, I mean, Zavi is trying his best to hold the floodgates as hard as he can, but the United States will eventually pull this scoreline back no matter what. We go into a calm before the storm, another slow section before it's full throttle into that final KI. It's do or die right now for these players, and the scoreline is going to shift over in favor of the United States. Kalanjak and Delete need to find that miss, and for what it's worth, as long as they go down, the Philippines will have the counter attack required to come back. But Yura finding a miss as we move into the next KI, not going to do them any favors whatsoever, and the window of opportunity for Zabi to claw his way back is getting thinner and thinner. June finds the miss as well, and Delete and Kalanjak unrelenting in their pursuit. Kalanjak goes down, but there's not enough combo for the Philippines to come back. His country might crumble beneath him, but Delete refuses to go down. The United States will be putting a firm halt to the Filipino momentum with an FC from Delete to shut down Zavi towards the very end.
And Zavi may break, but it is Delete at the end of the day to hold the FC on this Nomod 1. An absolutely incredible score. And that is the sole reason why they're able to take this point. I mean, solid scores across the board, but it was Delete and Kalanjak once again to ground the United States and secure that break point, secure that point against the Philippines. And now they are up again to 5-3. Philippines unable to take that breakpoint right back, but we're going into the last ban phase now.
Yep. Oh, this is where the end game starts, and this is where the nerves start to climb. The United States are 1 point away from guaranteeing that match point on tiebreaker, while the Philippines still have 3 points to go if they want to get to that fabled tiebreaker point. And I think this is crazy. The Philippines is the seed 1 team. And I'd just like to remind everyone, they were undisputedly the best team in the tournament at the beginning. And the United States now are proving that the Philippines are not as strong as people think. They're proving their worth in this matchup. And as we move into the late game, their nerves will be put to the test. They might have the skills, but do they have the tenacity to go all the way? That will be the question. Only a few picks are left in the pool. If we ignore the protects that we have on hand, DT2, Freemod 1, Freemod 3, Nomod 4, Nomod 2 are the only things left to be contested. When 2 maps go down, if you ignore both protects, there are just 3 maps left. And, well, they will all have to be played if, you know, the Philippines and the US just keep going back and forth like this. But for what it's worth, I think the United States have a pretty solid segue to go into the match point. I mean, I'm definitely looking at the DT4, right? They still have their DT4 intact. And, you know, despite the fact that it is a gimmick map, the confidence, I think, is definitely there for the States to take this DT4 point pretty convincingly. That's a story for another time, however. Worm, tell us what your thoughts are as we get into this third ban phase.
Honestly, you know, United States is going to be banning first, and honestly, I think we're going to be seeing one of the Nomods go down. I think Freemod 1 is going to more likely be a Philippines ban. The reason I say this is because it is a consistency map. It really requires all 4 of your players to set very solid scores across all mods. And so I don't really think, given how Philippines relies on those carries, I don't think they want to go into that sort of map. And the United States banning out the Nomod 4. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing Nomod 4 play this match. And, you know, I think this is pretty expected coming out from the United States. They banned that Nomod 3 and they want to get rid of that Nomod 4 as well.
Yeah, but you are right. You are right on the head with that Freemod 1 prediction. And yeah, I think everything you mentioned, right? The Philippines don't want to play with that consistency, and they already lost. I mean, they might have won the Freemod 2. Yep, they might have won the Freemod 2, but the Freemod 1 is a whole different story when it comes to the mod. So Freemod 1 being taken out makes a lot of sense. But I think here, William, is where we'll probably start to see the protects. It is going to be, I believe, the pick of the Philippines to come in. And Hidden 2. I think Hidden 2. They might be opting to save it. I could definitely see a world where they save it and try to go for a bit more of a risky pick. But do you really want to risk going match point when your opponent still has a protect? I think not.
I think not at all, right? Like, if they go for an unsafe pick here, United States can just send their protect and potentially end the match right there and now. So I think they definitely want to try and have a secured point right here now and just go into their Hidden 2 protect, which, you know, I don't think any other map across the board is really as confident as this Hidden 2, right? It is their token map. And everything else is just so, you know, it could go very much either way based on the performance we've been seeing in this match so far. So, you know, I think we'll just be seeing that Hidden 2, no questions.
Yeah, alternatively, another sort of angle that I could definitely see Philippines going for is because they don't want to leave ambiguity to the end, they're willing to take the gamble when the nerves aren't as heightened. Because if they were to burn this the Hidden 2 protect later on in the matchup, that Hidden 2 protect is something that they're confident at, and that's gonna help them a lot when trying to cope with the nerves going into the later stages of this map, going to the very, very end of this map. And here we see Philippines do just that. They're gonna go into Freemod 3. They might have taken out the Freemod 1, but they seem to want to go into the more mechanics intensive sort of mixed skill set Freemod 3. This Freemod 3 really has everything, and I think the angle that Philippines are looking to go for here is that they want to alleviate some of the nerves that come with the later stages of this map, or the very end of this map, because Philippines, they want to play the long game, so they're really willing to take this gamble. And for what it's worth, I mean, Philippines still have the bracket reset, so I think this gamble is alright. It's a calculated risk, and I'm all here for it.
I mean, you say that, but I'm still just very scared, right? You mentioned that even though Hidden 2 could be safe for nerves, I don't think they have the time to do that. It is kind of now or never. But anyway, this Freemod 3, I think, is still a solid pick for them. I think everything else is definitely could go either way, right? You have still, what, the Nomod 2 and the DT2 still up for grabs, which both of which could easily be Kalanjak delete, just absolutely killing on this map. Freemod 3, I think, while still a speed map, I think there's just more room for the Philippines roster on those mods to try and play around with it. And I think this just makes sense as the other possible pick for them, really.
Yeah, I think it's more important to look at this pick more so as a long-term investment rather than a map that necessarily favors the Philippines. This is not necessarily a, you know, single performance sort of map. They're looking at the big picture when it goes to this kind of pick. And, you know, Fusion, he's a very, very smart captain. I definitely understand where he's coming from. We're gonna see, in fact, I believe, perhaps the Fusion is just lobby sitting, but from the side of the States, we're gonna see Creep Crafting, Sparkle, Dilly, and Kalanjak come in. Kalanjak, I could definitely see going for the Nomod, as he tends to like being the Nomod anchor. Sparkle and Creep Crafting, expecting to see the hiddens coming out from them and delete with the hard rock as consistent as ever. On the other hand, I could see Philippines, you know, having Camus Mako as the Nomod anchor, Xavi, maybe with the return of the hidden hard rock, Hushin with the hard rock, or Idex. You know, it could go either way, but we in fact see Hushin taking the hidden. And is this... Oh, well, no, we see Idex, in fact, being the anchor for the Philippines. So, yeah, a few... I mean, the US were pretty expected, but the Philippines diversifying their Freemod roster quite a bit.
I mean, not very surprising, honestly. I think you really want to make sure your Nomod anchor is one of those carries, just because it is so vitally important, especially on a not as tricky map such as this Freemod 3, that your Nomod anchor performs very well. And it's going to be this Freemod 3, the 216 BPM burst littered throughout this map can definitely catch you up, but not anything super stamina draining compared to what we've seen. Creepcraft and Hushin will trade the early breaks, but there is still plenty in this map to break on.
That's right, we're moving slowly but surely into the next build-up of the map. It is currently 3-3, but when the KI ramps up, that's where we're expecting to see more misses come in. But consistency is key. This map is very unforgiving, clocking in at a little over 2 minutes. And as we get into the KI, you cannot afford to miss. Everybody races into the final KI first half. You know, it seems as though everybody exercising comfort, but the focus is gonna be what's gonna decide who emerges victorious on this Freemod 3. Right now, the United States pull ahead with a slight accuracy lead, but it's not by a large margin. As we move into the break, everybody sees the scores. They know how tight it is.
It's just ever so slight right now. Everyone is dead even. Creepcraft and Hushin find those recovery combos, and it's still 3 FCs for both sides. But Sparkle finds that break.
And that is gonna be devastating for the United States, as now the Philippines have 3 combos, 3 FCs to their name alongside the support from Hushin. Oh, but it seems as though that was a Bancho miss from Sparkle, and now suddenly we're back in the game. But Philippines, without a doubt, are still pulling a hit. But the United States are gonna pull it right back with those double miss from Camus Mako and Idex Mindrike. Now Xavi is the only one left to fend. Once again, the last beacon of hope for the Philippines. But it's not gonna be enough as the United States race ahead with 3 SCs to their name. What are we doing?
It is absolutely not going to be enough. Xavi is only one person, and even though Creepcrafting finds a break, it is still 3 FCs for the side of United States. Cal and Jack delete. Sparkle may find the break, but they've done more than enough. Xavi may hit the impressive FC, but that is going to be a 500k victory for the United States, and that is just what I was worried about. That is just an incredible performance from the United States, taking another break point.
Oh no. Oh no. The United States now have a clear path to victory, and they're not even gonna wait. I mean, this is their pick. They could just choose to pick DT4 and look to end it right here. And right now, they still have their golden bullet loaded in the chamber. And I mean, if they just fire it right here, right now, they have such a clear path to victory. And oh my goodness. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. And as you mentioned, right, Will, that map was so cutthroat. The Philippines could not afford to lose that pick whatsoever. And the United States did not just win that pick, they demolished the Philippines on that Freemod 3. And now they have everything at their disposal to take it all the way. And we can just wait and see. But I think it's a DT4. I think they're just gonna go for their protect right here. I don't think that it's even worth trying to predict what they'll go for, because it's pretty damn obvious at this juncture.
Absolutely. I mean, I do want to circle back to say, like, we discussed at the start how RNG in nature this DT4 is. It is especially inconsistent in a lot of parts, and it is not dense or long at all. There is really no room for error in this sort of pick, so it could definitely go towards the Philippines if United States are unlucky. But actually, defying both of our expectations, actually, United States is going to be going with a DT2 pick.
Oh, so the United States didn't go for the protect, but instead pivot into the double time 2. William, you think they're trying to hide something here? You think they're trying to hide something here, you know? I think there are either two ways. There are two ways to look at this pick. Either they're trying to hide this DT4, or they know that DT4 is RNG. They don't want to pick gimmick into the Philippines, and hence, therefore, they want to rely on what has been working for them throughout this matchup, which is the mechanics coming in from Delete and Kalenjak. And I think it's the latter. I think it's the latter with this matchup.
Absolutely, yeah. It is very strange to see them not go for their protect, given that, you would feel confident on your protect, right? It's kind of your guaranteed point. But, I think maybe Light is just correcting his mistake from earlier with the DT4 protect. Maybe he just wants to send that DT2 right here now, just because his team feels more confident on it. And based on the previous performances on the United States on these tapping picks, given how dominant they have won them by, I do not think this is a surprising pick necessarily, but it's just a bit weird not to go for your protect.
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, Light, once again, is as smart as a captain as Hushin is. And, for what it's worth, this Double Time 2 is a US favorite pick. At least looking at what we've seen before. You're looking at the Nomod 5 victory. They did lose out on the DT3. But, that just seems to be a control issue coming in from the States. So, this DT2, I mean, it is your token speed test of the pool. The highest BPM map in this pool if you discount HD3, which is basically mapped at double time. This DT2 clocks in at a whopping 270 BPM, and it is a true test of your, DT speed tapping at the highest BPMs. The bursts in this map aren't as long as anything that we've seen in the Nomod 5, anything we've seen in the DT3, but, as always, where this map lacks in the notes, where this map lacks in the density, it definitely makes up for in the sheer amount of, speed, the sheer amount of raw finger tapping ability that you need. And I would like to mention, this map is a bit longer than your average DT2 map, at least from comparing other 6-digit tournaments. Map clocks in at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, so it is still relatively longer for DT standards, but I mean, for the players in this lobby, I could definitely see this DT going like every other DT that we've seen thus far. It could either be a hugely close match to the very end, or a dominating lead from the very beginning. But without further ado, let's jump straight into Watashi wa Yume to Kimi no Tame ni DT2.
And Redacted, I believe, is going to be making his in-match debut on this DT2. This DT2 requires a lot of aim, honestly. You mentioned the speed, those 5-note bursts at 276 BPM. But honestly, you compare it to a map like Split X, the same BPM, same length of burst, but it's mostly about the aim and the density of burst. As we get into this next guy, Aurora is going to find that break, and that is going to give United States the early score advantage, still holding 3 full combos to just 2 on the side of Philippines.
Oh my goodness, Makuku finds the miss, and now the window of opportunity is open for Philippines to take this scoreline as far as possible. Delete as well going down, and now Xavi and Inex Mindrike have the FC advantage over Redacted. And right now, they not just have the combo, but they also have the accuracy in their hands. They're gonna compound that score lead more and more as we move out of this next slower, more calm section.
Oh my goodness, and the Philippines are going to take this score lead right back. It is going to be in their favor as we get into this next KI here. All the combos looking very strong. Everyone on the Philippines finding that carry, but meanwhile, it's just Sparkle and Redacted to hold those big combos.
Oh,
the lead goes down again, and I think this may just be in Philippines' hands as we get into the last of the match with Redacted as well. One of the big combos for United States go down, and it's just Sparkle to fend off against the entire Philippines roster. Kemo may find the break, but there are still 3 massive combos on the side of Philippines.
Yura, Xavi, and Inex Mindrike are trapping Sparkle in a corner. The only sort of large combo from the States, Cuckoo, might be behind him, but it's nowhere near enough to match up against the 3-way dominance from the Philippines as we move into this last quarter of the map. There is not going to be much time left for the United States to bring it back. And Wilweb, this is what we were talking about. DTs are so divisive. Sparkle finds the miss. Cuckoo, the only one left to fend for the US. Europe might find a miss, but Kalenjak and Delete be damned. Inex Mindrike and Xavi are gonna be your carries for this double time too, as they race towards the last quarter, generating a 500k score lead and counting. Inex Mindrike might miss, but it doesn't matter whatsoever. Xavi is looking to run the extra mile.
Oh my goodness gracious, they've done it again. This duo of Xavi and Inex Mindrike setting just both above 900k scores on a map like this is absolutely incredible. And there's just nothing on the side of United States to match that. And that is going to be the point to Philippines taking that break point right back. And now it might be a little bit more divisive there. Maybe that DT2 was a bit of a mistake, and not going into their DT4 protect was a bit of a mispick there. And Philippines are just going to be able to respond right back. Yeah, hidden two, absolutely,
yeah. It's just hidden two. I mean, Philippines, it's like a bloodbath after a bloodbath, an eye for an eye when it comes to these breakpoints. And now the Philippines, as easily as or as comfortably as the United States could have gone for their DT4, the Philippines can just as comfortably go for this hidden 2. And one thing I'd like to mention, Will, this hidden 2 seems more favored towards the Philippines than DT4 is favored towards the United States. We might have an incredible matchup on our hands where, an incredible timeline on our hands where the Philippines win this hidden 2 and then somehow manage to steal a protect breakpoint against the United States.
But, United States certainly do not slouch on this hidden 2 pick, right? They had 600k from both Creepcrafting and Sparkle last week against Indonesia, which was more than enough to blow away Indonesia's scores. But, I think we've said that Philippines have more players to fill that gimmick, right? Kalenjak and Delete both had to fill that hidden 2 last week, and they only got about 100k scores. And meanwhile, Philippines has, June, has Raijin, has Irex even, has Xavi to be able to fill for this hidden 2. And I think when you're just up in a 4v2, it might just be doomed from the get-go.
That's right, but we'll have to wait and see. For what it's worth, the States aren't too much of strangers when it comes to the hidden 2, and we haven't seen how the Philippines have performed on the hidden 2. As strong as Raijin, Yuna, and Jun Yorigami proved themselves to be, you can basically, sort of link them up with Sparkle and Creepcrafting from the States. And when you look at the 2 other supporting carry players that we're probably gonna see, I definitely am predicting like a Camel Smuckle and Irex coming in from the Philippines. And meanwhile, the States probably just gonna bring in Delete and Kalenjak for the fill. Maybe Kiwi, but at least looking at what we saw from last round, just gonna pull it up real quick. At least looking from what we saw last round, the roster was Creepcrafting and Sparkle with the anchor, and Kalenjak and Delete to fill. And for that reason, as you mentioned, right, the main question or the main point of contention in this matchup, I think, is gonna be, is Irex and Camo gonna be stronger than Kalenjak and Delete when it comes to filling for this hidden 2? I think that's the main question that we're gonna ask during this hidden 2 protect pick coming in from Philippines.
You say that, but this map is certainly not easy for the carries as well, right? It is so short and there is so little combo that even for your carries, it's going to be very easy to find the break, right? These reading patterns are just so brutal and they can easily trip you up that, I don't think we can guarantee those solid scores from even the likes of Creepcrafting, Sparkle, Junior Agami, Raijin. It's still very, very up for debate, honestly. I don't think it's going to be as polarizing as you think.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that being a case, because truly this is probably one of the hardest maps in the pool, if not the hardest map in this pool. And this is one of those maps where the carry performance that we've been talking about time and time again this matchup, this is sort of the epitome of, a carry can really change the outcome of this matchup. We saw that kind of potential with Creepcrafting in that last match. We haven't seen what kind of scores Jun Yorigami can put out. But now that I'm thinking a bit more about it, remind me, isn't Jun Yorigami like mouse only? Doesn't this mean that when it comes to a more tapping intensive hidden 2, they might sort of falter a bit, they might sort of struggle a bit? And now we're asking these questions. This is looking a lot closer than I first intended for the Philippines.
Absolutely. I mean, even when this is your protect, you can't guarantee anything when it comes to a matchup of this caliber. Both teams are just so strong. And again, it just depends what happens on the day, right? But right now, we're going to be getting into this hidden 2 right now. And a lot of early breaks, actually. June, Sparkle, and Creepcrafting all finding the break. But So we'll have to see what happens in these trickier sections of the map. The real meat of the map is these stack patterns that are really, really tricky to reach.
Whoa. Across the board, everybody just finding misses through and through. As it stands right now, Creep Crafting as well, finding a bunch of misses, and Dilly and Kalenjack are the ones to pull, albeit with not the best accuracy. Kalenjack finds the miss as well, and now Raijin, Yuna, and Junior Origami, the gimmick carry of the Philippines, are pulling a hit. This is a very short map, clocking at a little less than 2 minutes long, so any sort of combo is going to be significant. June finds the miss, but Raijin Yuna is still holding alongside now Kemu Smuckle, and there are no combos on the side of the states to bring the comeback as you move into that second half of the map.
We're really going to need to see an absolute collapse from the side of Philippines. Raijin and Kemo are just holding those insane combos, and it is just Creep Crafting to try and call this back, but the score lead is not going anywhere. It is at 400k and climbing, and I do not think there is anything else the United States can do here. They just do not have anything at all, really. It is just Creep Crafting with that solo combo, but what can you do when you're against this duo of Raijin and Kemo? Raijin still holding that FC into the very end of the map. Finally finds that break, but he has done more than enough. A 900k score lead on this hidden 2, and what a performance.
That's right, Raijin Yuna, Kemo Smuckle, Jun Origami, incredible performances all across. It's crazy when Zavi is the lowest score on the lowest individual score on your team. That's the sort of dominance that the Philippines needed to go to this last pick. And oh man, here's where things get tough. We'll have 62 matches, and we are once again at that fabled 5-6 scoreline.
Oh my goodness gracious. Honestly, a little bit of an underperformance there from the United States, right? I think Sparkle especially, I don't think he was expecting to get as much of a downgrade compared to his previous performance, and you're absolutely right. It is now tiebreaker point, but the United States have this one, and they are going to be sending their Protect, their DT4 Protect right here and now. They want to end this. They do not want to play that tiebreaker and potentially give Philippines that win. They want to take this to bracket reset, but this map is certainly a map to do it on. This map is so random, honestly. It is very hard to be consistent on this sort of old map, linear aim. It's not a skill set that a lot of people are used to playing, and it's also just so short, so sparse, right? There is just not a lot of map to even make a recovery, even if you find any sort of break. So very, very tricky one, I think.
That's right, this was the first pick that we saw in Grand Finals, and this is now potentially the last pick that we'll see this week. DT4, I'm not your boyfriend, baby. What a map to end it on, indeed. Not just from how volatile, from how unforgiving, how cutthroat a map like this is, but from how freaking silly ending a tournament on this map would be. An unbiased viewer is now crossing their fingers. They're praying for the tiebreaker, and it looks like the United States, they really do not want to go to this tiebreaker, as all 4 players, they're locking in, they're going to practice the map, and honestly, who can blame them? Who can blame them? The nerves at this point in the map. Imagine playing this kind of map with nerves, Willem.
I mean, the United States do have that tiebreaker security, right? The Philippines still need to win this and the tiebreaker to win the match and hence the tournament. But the United States have that tiebreaker security, which, you know, even then, I don't think is much to be secure about. These carry performances on Philippines have just been so strong in these previous few matches, certainly making a strong recovery here. But, you know, we just have to worry about this DT4 for now. These 8 players have to lock in on this DT4. Very tricky job, honestly. The nerves can get to you on these linear patterns. It is so easy to find the miss, and it is just, there's just not that much map to be able to recover, right? We've said this again and again. It's just one of those maps that can easily go either way if one team is not consistent on it. And I'm just very, very worried for both sides here, honestly.
That's right. And I think this is a pivotal moment in the matchup. I think last time we saw this kind of matchup, I mean, The United States were beaten down. This time they have the advantage as we move into what could potentially be the last map that we see during this round before we get into a bracket reset. It's gonna be I'm Not Your Boyfriend, baby. Instantly you get to see the double time linear aim patterns coming to attack these players.
Absolutely, yeah. These old map style patterns, not really what players are used to playing in tournament, honestly, and it's really about those linear patterns, right, with the overlaps that can easily catch people out. And we see some early breaks, actually. Kiwi, Sparkle, and Zavi all finding breaks here. It is 2 FCs to 3 right now, but there are some very tricky linear aim sections coming up. It's just about who can hold through those.
That's right, Idex, Junior Origami, and Chemos Marco gonna pull ahead. Kalenjak as well, finding the miss, and now it's just Delete left to fend for himself. But, you know, anything can happen on this matchup. We are still comparatively in the earliest sections of the map. If we see a 3-way miss from Philippines, I mean, Delete might just be enough to take it all the way. But we are in a slower section right before the next KI.
The linear aim catching no one out, and Philippines is still holding that 3-way, make that 2-way actually as June finds a break, but it's still Idex and Chemo both to hold against just the combo on Delete. Sparkle finding the break, and the USA roster has just not found much of a recovery here. The score lead is increasing towards Philippines, but Chemo finds that break.
And that's right, Delete now has both the combo and the accuracy to make the difference. Idex sees the score, and we're locked into a final duel. Delete aims his gun, he fires, Delete shooting the golden bullet right into the heart of the Philippines, and he's looking to go all the way into the last quarter of the map. The question is whether he'll be able to secure the bag for the United States. We move into the last quarter, anything can happen, the scoreline shifts over, it's a 20k score lead and growing. The last sliders of the map come in, and as Delete continues to trudge ahead, we're going 570 combo and counting. Last quarter of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the game that we're playing. The loyal, the unwavering, the faithful shall be rewarded. The world thought the Philippines couldn't be stopped. It's time to change your minds. For the first time, the USA have drawn blood against what seemed like the unfathomable. As we push into the bracket reset, they tore through Indonesia, and now they're looking for the Philippines.
Oh my goodness gracious, what is that performance on Delete? Being caught on none of that where no one else could. Who else but Delete to hold and secure United States this first match of the grand finals? And, you know, I was doubting the United States. I thought they would just absolutely get skill capped on this pool against a roster like the Philippines, but I have been proven wrong once again. And
all the doubters, why doubt? The United States are now one step closer to their ultimate goal of toppling the Philippines. And as I mentioned before, they have drawn blood. The only question is whether they will be able to lower the guillotine on the villains of this year's World Cup. But that said, we're gonna take a quick break. I think the audience themselves need a quick break. And I believe we're gonna have Maiji joining in to the commentary booth to actually do a quick post-match intermission interview with, I believe, one of the captains from the teams that we have today. So without further ado, Maiji, would you like to introduce yourself? Would you like to talk about how you're gonna be doing this?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm trying to get confirmation between these both captains, Light and Kyushin. I'm gonna try and get both of them in here. It would be perfect, but mainly try and get Light in. You know, United States just won the first match, and now we're going to bracket reset. So trying to get the insight of how these guys are going. And if people are wondering who I am Maiji Gami. Thank you for introducing myself. Commentator, and I love doing these post-match interviews. Kyushin, I believe, is saying yes, and now I'm just waiting for Light because this guy hates looking at his DM. So yeah, we're gonna get into a break and we'll see you guys shortly.